Hey there, and welcome. So, if the idea of tackling budgets and forecasts for your CIMA P1 exam has you feeling even a little bit stressed, well, you are in the perfect place. Today, we're going to completely demystify these topics, breaking them down into simple, logical steps so you can walk into your exam with total confidence. So let's just start with the big core question, right? How does any business on Earth make a solid plan for a future that's, totally unpredictable? How do you figure out how many things to make, or how many people you're going to need, or how much cash to keep on hand? That is the exact puzzle we're here to solve today. And here's my promise to you. By the time we're done here, you are going to learn exactly how to build budgets and forecast data using real, practical techniques. We're not just talking theory, we're talking about the skills that will actually get you that pass mark. So here's our game plan. We'll kick off with the big picture master plan for budgeting. Then we'll drill down into how to build all the individual parts. We'll look at some awesome analyst tools for understanding costs and predicting the future, talk about why forecasts fail and how to fix them, and then we'll wrap it all up with a final exam walkthrough. Ready? Let's jump in.
First things first, the master plan. Seriously, try not to think of a budget as some boring spreadsheet. It's way more than that. It's the architectural blueprint for the entire business, making sure everyone and everything is working together towards the same goal.
So, the million-dollar question is, where do you even start? Well, every single business has one main bottleneck, one single thing that limits everything else it does. We call that the principal budget factor. Now, for most companies, this is just sales demand. Think about it. It makes perfect sense. Why would you ever plan to make 1 million products if you can only sell 10,000? Everything, and I mean everything, starts with how much you can realistically sell.
Okay, so once you've figured out that main limiting factor, it's time to start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. This is where your operating budgets come into play, and you'll see they all connect in a really satisfying logical order.
And this flowchart shows that flow perfectly. See how everything kicks off with the sales budget? That's our principal budget factor in action. How many units you plan to sell tells you exactly how many you need to make in your production budget. And that, in turn, tells you how much material you gotta buy, how many labor hours you'll need, and what your overheads are gonna look like. It's like a waterfall, a beautiful cascade of logic.
Let's put some quick numbers on that. Say you're planning to sell 10,000 units. You also want to have an extra 1,000 units sitting in the warehouse at the end of the year, just in case. But hey, you're not starting from zero. You already have 500 units from last year. So the key is, you don't need to produce all 10,000. You need to produce what you'll sell plus the extra you want for closing inventory minus the inventory you already have. And there you have it, 10,500 units.
Okay, pay attention because this is a huge exam trap that catches so many people. You absolutely have to know the difference between cash and profit. Cash is real. It's the lifeblood of the company. It's about day-to-day survival. A cash budget tracks every single piece of actual money coming in or going out. Profit, on the other hand, well, it's really an accountant's opinion of performance. It includes things that aren't cash at all, like depreciation. You have to remember this. A company can be wildly profitable on paper and still go bankrupt because it ran out of cash. Do not get them mixed up.
All right, to make our budgets accurate, we need to get good at predicting costs. And to do that, we need to pull out our analyst's toolkit. Let's figure out how costs actually behave in the real world.
The high-low method is one of your best friends in an exam. It's a super quick way to take a mixed, semi-variable cost and split it into its two parts, fixed and variable. The logic is so simple. Step 1, just find the highest and lowest activity points in your data. Step 2, find the change in cost between those 2 points. All of that change has to be because of the variable bit. Step 3, divide the change in cost by the change in activity, and boom, that's your variable cost per unit. Step 4, just plug that variable cost back into either the high or the low point, and you can solve for the fixed cost. It's a simple, reliable, 4-step recipe.
And this is exactly what we're doing visually. We're taking that jumbled, messy, diagonal line of total cost, and we're using math to untangle it into 2 super simple, predictable parts. That flat line of fixed costs at the bottom and the clean slope of the variable cost. It just makes forecasting 1,000,000 times easier.
Now, for a slightly more powerful tool, we have linear regression. This gives us 2 key numbers you need to know. First, there's R, the correlation coefficient. Just think of this as the direction and strength of a relationship. Are things moving together or apart, and how close is the connection? But the real MVP for your exam is R squared. This is the big one. It tells you how much of the change in one thing is explained by the change in another. So an R squared of 0.7 means that 70% of the movement in our sales can be explained by our marketing spend. Pretty cool, right?
But, and this is another exam trap alert,
Regression isn't a crystal ball. It's powerful, but it has dangers. First, it assumes that relationship is a perfect straight line, which life rarely is. Second, if you use it to predict something way outside the data you started with, you're basically just guessing. And most importantly, and please burn this into your brain, correlation does not prove causation. Just because two things move together does not mean one caused the other. Don't fall for that trap.
So, let's build on that and dive into forecasting. Honestly, the best way to think about this is like predicting the weather. We're looking at historical data, searching for patterns to make a really educated guess about what's likely to happen next.
And one of the clearest patterns you can find is seasonality. I mean, this chart says it all, doesn't it? An ice cream shop is obviously going to sell way more in the hot summer months of Q2 and Q3 than in the freezing winter of Q1 and Q4. If we can spot and measure that seasonal pattern, our forecasts immediately get way more accurate.
This whole technique of sifting through past data for trends and seasons is called time series analysis. You might see two models, an additive one, where the time series is just trend plus seasonality, and a multiplicative one, where it's trend times seasonality. But for the exam, you must know its biggest weakness. It only works if the future looks exactly like the past. It's completely blind to external factors, like a new competitor setting up shop across the street or a sudden economic crisis.
So, knowing that our simple forecasts can be a bit fragile, how do we make them tougher? How do we stress test them for the real world? Let's look at why they fail and what modern tools we have to power them up.
The truth is, forecasts fail because the real world is complicated. Our models are often too simple, things change out of the blue, and sometimes our data is just bad. But today, we have some incredible tech to help us out. We can run what-if analysis where we just tweak one variable to see what happens. We can go even further and stress test our whole plan against a worst-case scenario. And of course, we can use big data to build smarter models that can see and react to things in real time.
All right, we've done it. We've covered the theory, the techniques, and the modern power-ups. Now for the most important part, how to apply all this when the pressure is on. Let's walk through a few exam-style questions.
Okay, question 1. A bakery's sales are limited by the capacity of its main oven. What is its principal budget factor? Is it A, sales demand, B, machine hours, C, skilled labor, or D, raw materials? Think about it. What is the single biggest thing holding this bakery back?
Next up, a calculation. Using the high-low method, if total costs are $10,000 at 500 units and $16,000 at 1,000 units, what is the fixed cost? Your options are A, $4,000, B, $6,000, C, $12,000, or D, $10,000. Go ahead, pause if you need to, and walk through those 4 steps.
And finally, a classic interpretation question. An analyst finds an R-squared of 0.85 between marketing spend and sales revenue. What does this actually mean? Does it mean A, marketing causes 85% of sales, B, 85% of the variation in sales can be explained by marketing spend, or C, the relationship is positive and strong? Watch out for the trap on this one.
And we're going to leave it right there. I'm not giving you the answers because working through them yourself is where you'll really learn this stuff. And remember, the real point of a forecast isn't about getting it perfectly right. It's about making you think through all the possibilities so you're ready for whatever happens. Now you have the tools, go ace that exam.